Hey guys, welcome back. So let me start this video by asking you guys a question. When you're in a relationship and you're faced with a conflict or confrontation, do you find that you or your partner get very critical of each other, or that you're extremely dismissive or they are very dismissive towards you, or that they're defensive? Do they get very well, I did this, but how about you? Or do you find that they completely stonewall you and just shut you out, or you shut them out and it's blank? Because if you do any of these things in an argument, in a relationship, then most likely your relationship is doomed and you will not pass the test of time. If you haven't been to my channel before, welcome. I'm Hamasa, and on this corner of the internet we look at personal development, mental and emotional well-being, as well as just day-to-day issues and life. So please subscribe to my channel so that you're up to date with my content, and welcome to my page. So this week's video is based on relationships because I feel like communication is the basis and foundations of most relationships, or at least what makes a relationship resilient. Of course, you have things like respect and trust and all of those, which goes without saying. But then if you're not good at communicating what the problems are, because most likely you will have problems arise at one point or another. You two different people come from two different households, upbringings, and of course you're going to have different perspectives on things and you're not going to always agree. So that's okay if you argue. That's how you really become stronger and get to know each other. But the issue is how you communicate in those arguments. If you don't have good communication skills or can't seem to find the common ground to communicate with each other, and most likely your relationship won't really last. So, what are the 4 things that are real relationship killers when it comes to communication? When I was doing my research for this video, I came across a psychologist called John Gottman, who, along with his partner, did 4 decades of research on couples therapy and just relationships. He's a psychologist and so is his partner, and they've really analyzed just what makes couples love masters and what makes couples love disasters, which is what he categorized them as. And then he identified like the sort of 4 horsemen of the doom of your relationship. So the 4 big relationship killers that always take place, and that's how relationship usually fall apart. And we're going to start off by analyzing what these are. And the first one is criticism. So let's say if you deal with issues, or your partner deals with issues by criticizing instead of addressing the issue, then this is how it usually looks like. So I wanted to just make sure that you guys identify these if it's happening in your relationship, be it from you or your partner, and other ways of overcoming that and dealing with it and just avoiding that sort of confrontation or that sort of very personal attack on someone that you care about. So the criticism is, let's say that you're supposed to be meeting up with your partner and they're running late and they haven't communicated that with you. The right way for you to approach the situation would be, oh, I really wish you had told me that you were going to be late, or that you know that I worry and we agreed that you're gonna let me know if you're running late, and so on. But when criticism is applied in this scenario, then it turns into you actually criticizing the person's character or the person themselves rather than the problem or the issue. So you would communicate it by saying, listen, you're always like this, how selfish of you, you're so inconsiderate, you didn't tell me. You are now attacking the person instead of addressing what you have a problem with. And what happens in this instance? Does your problem actually get resolved? Of course not, because it hasn't been discussed. That's been pushed aside because you're too busy attacking the person or their character, and so they're responding to that instead of the actual issue. So it's important to realize if you're the criticizing type or that your partner is a criticizing type, and to talk about that and see how you guys can communicate better instead of criticizing each other. So when this is the case, when one person in the relationship is very, very critical, naturally either makes the other person very defensive, which is the defensiveness that comes in, that's also a relationship killer, or what it does is that it makes both of you very critical. So every time that you guys have a problem that you need to solve, you can't get past dissing each other's characters, and you can't actually get to the bottom of the problem, like to the root of the issue. So it's really just going around in circles and just disrespecting each other in the way you're communicating, which is really no good to anybody, especially to the growth of your relationship. The next big no-no in relationships is dismissiveness/contempt. So contempt is something that isn't that obvious, and it's not that painful per se, but at the same time it has a lot of hidden meanings and connotations, and comes from a place of sort of a superiority from your partner. So what does contempt look like? Contempt is things like sarcasm, dismissiveness, eye rolling, mocking, just some sort of gaslighting, like just making you feel very invalid with little snidey comments, with eye rolls, with just not listening, going on your phone when your partner's trying to say something. And all of those things might be little minor gestures on your behalf or your partner's behalf, but in the long run, it builds a lot of resent, and it's very hurtful to the person on the receiving end. And it also makes you feel very worthless. And if you're in a relationship with someone, why on earth would you want to make them feel worthless? And why on earth would you want to be feeling worthless? So when even small gestures like that in due time build up and add to something, and it could really escalate into this sort of underlying issue, resentment between you. Even you may not even be aware of it, but it will add up, and it will be something that would draw a wedge between you in your relationship. So it's always important to be aware of your body language and overall mannerism, and that showing that you don't feel like you're superior, because it is making the other person feel like, I know better, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you. So it's about learning to listen and not be dismissive. Now the next one, I think we're all a little bit guilty of, is defensiveness, because it's us protecting ourselves and protecting our egos. But what does that really do to the relationship? And like I mentioned earlier, with the critical, usually the defensiveness then develops. So it's like a knock-on effect. But sometimes people are just very, very defensive without even being criticized. So again, listening is so important, because if someone is just expressing how they feel about the relationship or the situation, most times we take that as criticism towards us. But that's really not the case. It doesn't mean that just because someone has a problem with something, that they're criticizing your character. It just means that there's an issue that both of you need to be made aware of and work on. So what happens, example of being defensive? Defensiveness comes from just not wanting to take responsibility for your actions, which is halting all of our growth if we can't be responsible for ourselves. So that applies in relationships too. Now, let's say you were supposed to send the post and you didn't because your partner was, you forgot, right? You were supposed to send the post and you didn't do it. So your partner's asking you, did you manage to send that post? I really needed that sent. And instead of actually taking responsibility for you forgetting, or just saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I forgot, like I will do that, or can you please try and do it because I'm not able to, you are then, you never put the dishes in the dishwasher, you never do your laundry, you never do pick up groceries, you forget this, you forget that. Instead of again addressing the problem, you are deflecting and criticizing and defending yourself blindly, but not taking responsibility for your actions. And what is that doing? Is just avoiding the problem again. It's not addressing the problem. You are just so busy protecting your ego that you're just letting the relationship fall. And the final horseman is stonewalling, or ghosting, or just the silent treatment. So what happens when you give your partner the silent treatment? So it could either be completely silent, just no word at all, or it could be that you're moody, you're sulking, and your partner asks you, what's the issue? What's wrong? Is something the matter? And you're just like, no, it's fine, everything's fine, I'm okay. When you both clearly know That's not the case. Like, you could see, the tension could be cut with a knife in the room, yet you're dismissing that and you're withdrawing yourself. What you're doing here is that you're punishing your partner by withdrawing yourself from the problem and by not acknowledging the issue. And that punishment, again, isn't going to solve anything. All it does is that you're withdrawing yourself from the problem instead of resolving it. So it's very important and crucial, if you want your relationship to grow and you want to build on it and you want to keep the communication to what the problem is, rather than being dismissive, dissing each other's character, getting personal, then it's very important for us to be conscious if we or our partners do any of these 4 things when it comes to communication. And if that's the case, then you need to be aware that you do that, or they do that, and be consciously make an effort and agree to resolve those issues within your relationship instead of bringing these factors into them. So I really hope that this has given you guys a little bit of an indication of key communication points that you find difficult, or you don't know how to overcome, or somehow your arguments always tend to go in that direction. Because I've had a lot of questions that you guys messaged me about this and asked, and sorry about the beeping, so annoying, about just how the best way to communicate within my relationship or avoid arguments and things. And I feel like these are the 4 key points from my research that really stood out to me, and they make total sense, and I just hope that this has helped you too. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video so that you're up to date with my content, and I'll see you guys again here soon. Mwah.